This is hilarious. Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House, she did an interview on CBS Sunday morning. And a couple of the things that she said triggered MAGA people so much online. And I was scrolling through some of the reactions and was having a little bit of a giggle to myself. So we'll first play this moment where she's asked about JD Vance, and I found her response perfect. Then we'll get to what is the most controversial statement, and I'll give my take on that. And then after that, we will get to her being asked about the role she played in potentially pressuring Biden to drop off the ticket, as obviously he eventually decided to do.
Did Donald Trump make a mistake when he chose JD Vance?
Oh, I think it was a great choice.
So just saying JD Vance was a great selection and then laughing. Perfectly fine response to me, because the thing it seems Trump and a lot of the MAGA leaders hate more than anything else is being perceived as and portrayed as a joke, right? This is why the whole MAGA leaders are weird thing has struck such a nerve with them. And it's why Trump at a recent rally said, I hate when people laugh at me. Something about them really needs that sort of approval. And so when they get the opposite of it, or they just get laughed at, they're not taken seriously. I think that's a really painful spot to be touched. And that's what Nancy Pelosi did there, which I thought was funny. This part, I'm curious to hear what you all think of. Here we go.
A good place to make whatever decision, top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next.
That he belongs up there on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
So you can understand why MAGA didn't like that. And here's, I guess, a few things I should throw at you in understanding that moment, and then I'll respond. The context was that she was having to answer questions about pressuring Biden to not run for re-election. And the fact that given his strong presidency, he wanted to run, but it seemed his candidacy wasn't strong enough to defeat Trump's, given doubts about him as a candidate. And so Pelosi was reported to be one of those people who was really consequential in getting him to decide to not run for re-election. And so as she's talking about that, I think what this is an overcompensation, saying, I'm going to answer this question about pushing him off the ticket, or at least we're having a discussion about that. So let me balance it out by saying I can't overstate how much I think positively about his presidency. And I'm going to use the strongest example of that, potentially a little tongue-in-cheek, which is Mount Rushmore. But don't say Mount Rushmore, okay? That's not, in a political conversation, you're almost always going to lose or be made fun of if you compare a modern president to some of the presidents on Mount Rushmore. And it feels to people like you're saying any of the successes, which there were many, of Biden's presidency, that's like the abolition of slavery. It just never comes off correctly. But again, she was trying to make the overcompensated point of, I think he was a great president. And yeah, I was kind of pressuring him not to run. But here, she sort of denies that she was doing a pressure campaign, but it's also a little bit evasive. To me, regardless of who was the straw that broke the camel's back, a bunch of prominent people and pollsters, too, were coming to Biden saying, you can't win. That's what convinced him. And I don't like this telling of the story as if there was one person who has unique control over Biden who pressed a button and made him not run. He looked at all the available evidence, had a lot of people he respected come to him and say authoritatively, you can't win this thing. And he decided not to run. In the last 28 days, 100,000 people have subscribed to this channel, which is absolutely stunning. Thank you so much. If you haven't yet, please do click that subscribe button. You don't want to have FOMO, do you? I appreciate it. Back to the video.
There have been reports that it was Nancy Pelosi who orchestrated a coordinated effort to squeeze President Biden to drop out. Please tell us what you told President Biden to persuade him to step aside.
Well, I've never shared any conversations with the President of the United States publicly, no.
It's said that he's furious at you. Is he?
Well, he knows that I love him very much.
I understand that you don't want to own this, but it is so well reported that you were the leader of a pressure campaign.
No, I wasn't a leader of any pressure party. Well, let me say things that I didn't do. I didn't call one person. I did not call one person. I could always say to him, I never called anybody.
With all the respect to Nancy Pelosi, that does come off pretty evasive. I never called anyone. I texted them. Nancy. But honestly, there's no reason to disclose exactly what happened, because it doesn't really matter. Biden had this, something I've gone through so many times. Biden had the power to stay on the ticket. He really did. He would have received the nomination. Those delegates were his to give up. And he could have forced his way into staying the nominee. Other people had the absolute right and power to express to him, to express in public forums, their concerns about the candidacy. And then people had the power to present data to him about his likelihood, or lack thereof, of winning against Trump, given all the post-debate fallout. Everyone was operating within their right, and Biden decided within his right to step off the ticket. And I do think we're now observing that was the right decision. Watching the swing in polling in favor of the Harris campaign is proof that this was a good decision, and one that embodies high integrity and high character. Biden doing something that Trump could never possibly imagine doing, which is placing the country above himself. And so I think, as we are reviewing in part the Mount Rushmore comment, in thinking about his legacy, he only improved the legacy, only made it that much stronger by ending what has been a successful presidency in a more honorable way than losing to Trump. That would have been disastrous. It would have put up into flames the good things that took place. So, funny mockery of J.D. Vance. Eek. Let's not do the Rushmore comparison. And interesting unwillingness to directly engage with the question about her role, to me, for understandable reasons. Because the behind the scenes, they can have those discussions. My focus now is less so on that and more so on what we're doing going forward. It's clear now the matchup is Harris and Trump. And that matchup, I think, favors Harris. And if it doesn't yet in the numbers, it does in the facts. And that's what we need to explain to people. Let me know what you thought of all of that in the comments. Get this. Can I switch back, Jay, into this camera? I'm going to say more. So hear it this way. We've already raised, this is crazy. We've already raised $30,000 for the Kamala Harris campaign. And I've just been mentioning it at the end of videos primarily. And so I will be mentioning more because that's very exciting. And what we're trying to do is we crossed over 700,000 YouTube subscribers. Very exciting. Thank you all so much. Welcome. We're happy you're here. But we want to, by the time we get to 1 million subscribers, which at this rate will be very soon, we want to raise $1 million. So 30,000 is awesome, especially given that I haven't put that much emphasis on it. But we have a long way to go. So if you do want to donate to the Harris campaign in a way that we can track for our audience, then you can do so by clicking the link in the description of this video.